we were like had started or we were getting ready to start, and you walked in. Bianca didn't tell me like y'all's relationship. She didn't tell me like any details whatsoever. She just said like, hey, my friend might be coming or something like that. And then Kelly walked in and like she was like shy and didn't really have much to say and kind of like sat and watched a little bit of the podcast. And you know, we were just like rambling on for a couple hours, and you ended up bouncing. And then I got to see you at our Super Bowl party.
Yes.
And that's where the real true Kelly came out. I don't know if it was the sports that were on the game on TV or what it was. She felt more comfortable having already met us, but she was cracking me up that night.
Yeah. I think it was A, I've already met you, and B, like I knew some of the other people there, and it was more like a laid back. I did, because when I came, Bianca like said, "Hey, come here," and I didn't really know what I was come here to either. I was told it was free food, and I was like, "I'll be there."
Surprise, surprise, surprise! The camera's on.
Yeah. I was like, I did not realize. Like, I guess I knew, but didn't realize y'all were going to be like doing like a podcast that night. So I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm here." Yeah.
The microphones are live. Come on. I was trying to get you to sit down at there. I was trying to get you to come and talk a little bit, wasn't I?
I don't remember. I don't remember. But it was, I felt it was a good introduction, you know, because I've seen some of your stuff and had seen it on and was like, oh, this is neat. And it's here in town, which is different for us, you know. Most recovery things happen in Nashville. So.
Limited resources out here in Jackson County. So I have to say that one of the coolest things that you've done, and it's probably like so simple to you, one of the coolest things that you've done is during my active addiction, I was like super involved and interested in like the March Madness college basketball tournament. And so like literally I was the guy that would take off, like the tournament starts on Thursday every year, like Thursday and Friday. And I was the guy that would like request those 2 days off. I would be at the sports bar at like 10 a.m. when the bar opened up and like sit there until 2 o'clock in the morning when all the games were done and have like 5 different brackets filled out. And so like, that was one of the things that was like, during my active use, like that particular part of the year like revolved around like drugs and alcohol and watching the games. And so like since I've been in recovery like the last 4 years, I haven't filled out a bracket. I totally haven't filled out a bracket. And I just happened to see that Kelly threw up a bracket little tournament challenge thing this past March, and I got super excited about it. It really made my tournament by doing that, though it wasn't the outcome wasn't what anybody.
Yeah, no, I did too, and yeah, no, it was, which is interesting because it was my first year in a long time I had ever done one, because I'm not a huge college basketball person.
You're not?
No.
Okay, I got the impression that you might be.
No, because I grew up in South Carolina, and I'm a University of South Carolina fan. So I'm all about some college football and some like sec football and like I'm college championships, all that, bowl games, like that's my thing. And this year, I don't know, we just started watching it, and I decided to just do one because we should do them in school. Like I had one of my teachers was our coach, and he was real big in it, and he'd always get us to do one in his classes. And whoever got the closest, most points with it got something extra or something. So like I hadn't done one forever. I just wanted to do one just to say. I thought it was going to be funny, and then, like, mine was completely, like, I don't even think I had anybody that was in the Final Four and the Final Four. Like, it was, like, bad. Like, I got to, like, the Elite Eight, and it was, like, my bracket was, like, busted.
I pulled it up before you got here.
Oh, did you?
Just to check to see where, because I kind of, like, once all the upsets started happening, I stopped, like, paying attention to my bracket and just watching the games.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I only had one Final Four team left, and you didn't have any.
Yeah.
It was just one of those years.
Yeah, that's what I thought was funny, because I was like, I think I saw that where, like, I think the last time I saw, like, you had beat me because you had won the Final Fours and I had nothing. I was like, forget this. Neither one of us is going to win this. Yeah. Completely win. So I was like, just watch the games and stuff. And it was really interesting because, like I said, I played basketball in high school, but I never watched it.
Yeah.
like really never really got into watching it until like this year.
It's like one of my earliest childhood memories. My pops would like this is like pre-internet days. We would like cut the bracket out of the newspaper. Like we'd go the Monday after the brackets were released, and we'd buy like 4 newspapers for the whole family. We'd have to cut the bracket out of the newspaper, and like the whole family would fill out our brackets, and then we'd have to like tally it up, with a pencil. And so it was just something that I learned. And then I was the dude that would like still pre-internet days. I would show up the Monday after the brackets come out. I'd show up to work, having them all printed out and pass them around work. $5 brackets, $5 brackets.
Yeah.
So it was cool to just like to do that again in recovery, be able to enjoy the games, watch the games, wake up in the morning and remember who won, like all that stuff. It was a cool experience. It's one of the things that like talk about like having fun in recovery is one of those things where like I tend to like avoid some of like my past ways of having fun. I've learned new skills and new techniques to have fun.
Yeah.
But I haven't really gone back to some of the old things. And this was an experience that you brought me to be able to do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing with me was I'm still in that. I think we all go through that stage where we still try to. For a while, we stay away because in the beginning we try to change a lot, like our people, our places. So we change our the things we do. But as time goes on, like we go back to doing things. Like I know like last year for Jenny, who's my best friend's birthday, we all went and ate wings and shot pool for the first time in a long time. But with all of us in recovery, we went to the place in Cherokee, the All-Star.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because they had the 4 pool tables during the week. We went and we had a good time. But it was the first time in ever we had shot pool, and that's actually how I met Jenny and most of my friends in college was shooting pool around the pool tables in the dorms at Western. So like that was a thing, like, and it's about learning that, like, who I am, what I like to do, and I still struggle with that from time to time now because it's like, do I belong? Do I not belong? Like, am I comfortable here? Like, I went, I think it was last year, I went to a concert at the Orange Peel, which I haven't been to a concert at the Orange Peel since I've been clean. And second of all, it was like a rap concert, so probably not the best thing. But we all went, and it was.
Who was it? You remember?
It was Yellow Wolf.
Okay.
It was when we went. I went with a group to see Yellow Wolf, and because I grew up listening to I grew up listening to rap music, so I like rap music and country, which are the 2 weirdest combinations ever. But anyway, so I went, and after that, like I tell everybody, I was like, I went to the concert.
Yeah.
I probably will never go back to a Yellow Wolf concert.
Yeah.
A lot of drinking on stage. A lot of people were drinking around us. Like, I swear I smelled like beer when I left. My shoes had to be washed because I stepped in. Beer had gotten spilled because they actually had, like, mosh pits going on. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So many fights breaking out. Like, it was just crazy. I was like, this is not my scene.
Yeah. You named 2 things that I also have not really ventured out to do. And number 1 is play pool, because that's kind of just like relatable to. I was like a bar rat, like in Tampa, Florida. Like if you could find the shittiest like dive bar in town, I would be there. And so like playing pool was one thing. We did some bowling like last year. It was cold out. We did a bowl. We're at Res Hope and T-Raw bowling thing, and like Caleb and everybody were like shooting pool, and it just made me feel really uncomfortable because it just like brought back a lot of those like feelings. And then the concert, I haven't really been to many like shows. I went to one show in early recovery, and I had an identical experience to what you did, and it was here at Western. It was Waka Flocka at Western. It was in like 2015 or 2016 or something, and I was just like, it was. I think a part of it was that I was like a 35-year-old man and surrounded by like 20-year-old kids who were annihilated. And so like, I think that was a big part of it, but like, I just didn't really have fun. And so those are 2 things that are like on my list of things to do. But like at the right time, in the right environment, and that sort of thing.
Well, and for me with that is being with the right people. For me, I need to be around people who are going to hold me accountable, that I know like when we went and shot pool, it was a whole group of us went out, and everybody was in recovery. We had people with youngins with us, so it was, you know, this is going to be all right. And when I went to the concert, I went with 3 other people in recovery. We all rode together. There was no, we all stayed together at the concert. There was no like breaking off, like, you know. So I think that was what was cool, was because I had people that I knew I had to hold myself accountable to, because I also had the most clean time out of everybody there at the concert. So it was like, yeah. And it wasn't really like, it just was weird. And it was like, I've been to other concerts and they were fine, but that, I think because A, it was an orange pill, and B, because of what was going on, like they were actively drinking on stage and craziness going on. And I was just like, man, this is not at all my scene anymore. Yeah. Like I can say, this is not me no more. Like me younger, yes, we've been all about that.
Yeah, but it's like by having that accountability piece around you, you knew, like you were able to identify that, hey, I might not fit in here anymore, but like at least I like gave it a try and got to experience it, right?
Yeah, I went, and I can say that. Check that box.
Yeah, check that box.
I went to a Yellow concert. Check. I remember it. Check.
Yeah. Since we're talking about like having fun, like what's that progression been like for you to learn how to have fun and how to do things like that you enjoy and, you know, find value and provide that fulfillment for you in your life? Like what's the learning process been?
For me, it's been kind of slow because a lot of it's because I work, and it's just trying to figure that out. And also I have found out that a lot of people I know can do things by themselves, and I am not one of those people. I like to be around people. I like to do things with people. So, like, I'm all about, like, if I can get a group together or somebody else come with me and let's go do this, let's do that. Like, I'm more into that. But I found, like, for me, I really just like hanging out with people in general, which is kind of weird because at first, when I'm with a group of people I don't know, like, kind of like at the Christmas party here, like, I was real quiet. I kind of look around, kind of feel it out. But once I get to know somebody, like, I'll talk your ears off. I'll talk, like, forever. Like, I'm usually the one that, like, after we go to, like, our recovery meetings, that Jeannie's like, the car is leaving. So
every week,
every day,
every day.
So, like, but that's something also, which is kind of opposite from when I was using. I was not that way. I was the super quiet one that did not really talk and really was very introverted. And then as I've gotten clean and stayed clean, like, I'm a true extrovert. I like to be around people, I like to do things. Like, that's kind of where I feel most comfortable with and like to do. Like, me chilling at my house all the time is not a good spot for me. Yeah. And stuff. And I had to learn that. And a lot of that I learned in early recovery too, was I didn't need to be at the house by myself. So I did I went to meetings, and then I got fortunate because one of my, before I got clean, I went to therapy in college, which is kind of funny. And my therapist was the first one that was like, maybe your drinking is a problem.
Is that here in Western?
Yeah, Western. The only thing I would say about that, just my little soapbox, is they never gave me, how they used to do it, they didn't give people diagnoses. I'm sure there was a diagnosis, but my therapist never told me what my diagnosis was. And I kind of wish I would have known that, exactly what my diagnosis was. So maybe I could, I don't know if I probably wasn't ready anyway, but I didn't know, like, what they were saying I had or what my diagnosis was then. But she was the one that made me look at what binge drinking was. What, maybe this isn't normal behavior. And I was like, nah, I'm in college, I'm at Western, we all do this.
It's the expectation, man.
Yeah, and I went to Western from 07 to 2011, so, like, it was a while ago too. So, like, there wasn't like recovery on camp, like the recovery group wasn't there. Like, that's where I did a lot of my partying, was at Western stuff, which is kind of funny now.
And now here we are doing a recovery podcast right down the street.
Yeah, and like. Yeah, and I see that there is, like, recovery stuff now, which is, I think, is brutally. And I know people who've gone to Western clean, and it's like, and so it's like a really interesting concept for me when I was like, that's all I did was party in college. Yeah.
You got to live up to the expectation. I think that's one of those things that, like, I've thought a lot about this because being a non-traditional student, being involved in these collegiate recovery programs, and being on campus all the time, and working in a retail environment here in Silva where we hire a lot of college kids.
Yeah.
And it's that like I've reflected on that a lot in the sense that like I could honestly say that there was no fucking thing that anybody could have told me, right, at 20 years old, at 19, 20, 21 years old, no counselor, no therapist, no prevention services that would have like changed my mind. I was like that rebellious kid that was like, I'm gonna figure this shit out my way. I'm going to lay my path and figure this shit out. And like I was not open to like any type of coaching or mentoring or any of that kind of stuff. Like I was in, my parents would attest to this. Mom's probably watching. Drop some comments, Mom. Like I was determined to do it my way. I was like one of those teenage boys that was just like nobody could tell me anything. And so like I think about that a lot, like in these recovery circles that we travel when, you know, we are now interacting with that Steve.
Yeah.
You know, that 16, 17-year-old Steve. Like, how do you approach that? And what, like, there's nothing I could say, dude. So what's the point in wasting my breath instead of being more like, just like, I don't know, not necessarily leading by example, but just like not having the conversation without like directly having the conversation, without being so direct, just treating them like a person and like asking them about like what their interests are or what, you know, how they enjoy their lives and like have that, create that personal connection first and not necessarily like.
Yeah, because I believe, like, I'm a firm believer, you can't get clean if you don't realize you have a problem for anything. If you think what you're doing is completely normal and you're fine with it, you're not seeing any consequences, even though there may be consequences of it, then why change? If you don't see it as a problem, you're not going to change because you don't see a problem with it. And for me, like, especially when I like see teenagers, I see people like young people, like I try to just kind of plant the seed to let them know that if they ever think that they have any, you know, maybe you don't, maybe you don't have any issues, maybe you really will grow out of it. But if there is, there's definitely help out there when you need it, if you want it.
Yeah, and like, I mean, what's the percentages of like people who can consume alcohol in healthy ways, like normally? It's like it's pretty high, right? Like 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Am I right? Am I way off? 5 out of 10, 50-50. Like there's a large portion of the population who can, you know.
Yeah, and well, that's my thing is I tell them like I like for me, like I knew from an early age, like I never had that switch in my head that told me to stop.
Yeah.
Like I stopped when it ran out or when I blacked out. Like there was no, or somebody put me to bed, you know. Like there was no, my brain never had that, even when I was like in a teenager, like young teenager and stuff. So like, it was kind of funny because I was just reflecting back, like I'm leaving out this week to go see my half sister graduate from high school. And when I graduated from high school, some family friends on my dad's side threw me a party, and it was like they knew I was there. I knew it wasn't going to get back to my mama, which is my big deal. I hit a lot of my use in college and high school because I didn't want to get back to my mom. So I knew it was going to get back to my mom, and I just went for it, man. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah. And so, like, they're having a party for my sister, but it's before graduation. And I was like, I told my sponsor, I was like, hey, yeah, I know there's not going to be, there might be few people, but there's not going to be like the all-out partying because it's before graduation and all the family's there. So that's cool. I said, but if there's any other ones going on this weekend, I probably won't attend. Yeah. Because I know better. But it's just kind of interesting. Like, when I look back, I was like, no, like, I knew I wasn't, like, I didn't realize it was a problem. Like, I just thought, like, this is how I've always been. This is how it's going to be. Like, but for me, like, my kind of segue into recovery was through the fact that I have a co-current mental illness. And I don't talk about it a whole lot because of just whatever, because I don't hold it privately, but, like, the program I work is, I don't talk a whole lot. I talk more one-on-one with people than overall about, but like, yeah, I have major depression. Like, that doesn't ever go away. Like, I remember somebody once asked me in early recovery, like, do you think that will go away? I'm like, no, actually, I really don't, because, like, I've had the symptoms for most of my life, even before I started using alcohol. So it wasn't alcohol-induced major depression. I had the brain chemistry. Like, that's not going to go away. And that's what kind of led me into therapy in college, was my depression. And then my lovely therapist, which I wish I knew her name, because I would send her a thank you card and let her know how well I've done since then.
Let's talk afterwards. I think I know her name.
Well, I don't know. She left after when I
Okay.
graduated. She left. She was awesome. She was not a student, because I got somebody. I was like, finally, I was like, I don't want a student. I want somebody. So she was awesome, and she led me to kind of realize, and then I really still was in quite a lot of denial about my use, and I truly was one of the last people to realize that my drinking was an issue. Like, I really was. Like, my mom had talked to Janine, my best friend, and was like, I really wish Kelly would stop drinking. Had no clue that she did that. Like, had no clue that my mom even knew about how bad my drinking was. Because that was kind of my thing. Was I came to college, I wanted to get out where I grew up. My main goal my whole life was, I'm getting out of where I grew up. I grew up in bottom part of South Carolina.
What town?
Hardyville.
Never heard of it.
Right where you're in between Hilton Head Island on one side and Savannah, Georgia on the other side.
Okay.
And I went to high school in Savannah.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. I went to a private school over there from 5th through 12th.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different thing. But
it's a fun town.
Yeah, it's Savannah. Like, it's like the St. Patty's Day is like the third largest St. Patty's Day in the world.
Yeah.
Is Savannah, Georgia, and that's, so that's where I grew up. I grew up like in that
low country, huh?
Yeah, that low country. I grew up with that, and
I once drove my car from Tampa, Florida to Savannah, Georgia, just to eat at some restaurant, and then I turned around and drove all the way back.
Wow, that was
no, it was highly intoxicated and out of my mind, but I was dedicated to get that food. I don't even remember what it was. So, if you're okay with it, I would like to maybe talk a little bit about the depression.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, and to me, like, for my story, is kind of a different some from others. Is I stopped drinking actually Memorial Day weekend of 2011 because my roommate had banned me from drinking in our house, and then I slowly but surely, without having my major coping skill, which is drinking, I slowly but surely slipped into what would become my worst major depressive episode of my life, where, like, I wasn't getting out of bed, I wasn't eating, I wasn't showering. Like, knowing what we know now, I'm sure I should have probably been hospitalized, but I wasn't. And I knew from being in therapy and what kind of, like, my treatment, like, my plan was, after I graduated, was I needed to go to Meridian to the RACs. And I had already kind of been there to their group classes and stuff. So I was already linked up there, and I could go there even if I didn't have insurance, which was really cool. So, like, I knew, like, because I tried to handle my depression without medication. Like, I tried that summer, it got bad. Like I said, I wasn't getting out of bed. Like, I literally had to be forced to get out of bed, and then I'd make it to the couch.
You said earlier that you experienced symptoms of this depression at a very early age. Was this the first time that you had acknowledged it, like, clinically through a counselor or therapist?
I did it in college. I didn't get help because in my family, which you're probably going to love this, my behavior was very normalized. My other family members have my same behavior. So to my mom, I was normal for our family. So I didn't get help for my thinking, for my negativity, for, like, the other parts of my depression until I got to college. And then
I think that's very common, though.
Yeah.
Not just in your family. Like,
well, no, and I think it is because it's the first time you're around other people. And, like, I had a roommate I pointed out was like, yo, the way you act and the way you do things is not normal. And I was like, what do you mean it's not normal? Because this is my normal. And so definitely went to therapy. Thought I worked through some stuff. Don't know how much I really worked through because I was still actively using. And they didn't push meds or anything. And I don't know if it was because of my use. So once I had become completely abstinent from all substances and went through like my major depressive, because I'll go back a little bit. My senior year in college, I went through kind of a bad spot at the beginning of my last semester, but I pulled up just in time to pull my grades up and to graduate. And if I wasn't in my major I was in, I probably wouldn't have graduated. I don't really, because I didn't do a lot of assignments in the beginning. Like I went to class, and that was about it. And that was a stretch. But luckily I was in a smaller program at Western, and my professors knew me and I guess liked me and let me make up some stuff later on. But I pulled my grades up enough to graduate, and I graduated. And then I was fine for a little while, and then I went right back into it, and it was very bad. And then I realized, because they had recommended when I first went to Meridian after I graduated, that maybe I should be on meds, and I was like, nah, I don't need no meds. I'm good. I could just manage this with like skills, which I wasn't really working with skills, and my main coping skill was alcohol, so like that really wasn't a skill either. So with that, I about August of that year, I had finally hit a really low spot, and had finally gotten a job working at Walmart here in Silva as a cashier, and decided that, you know, I don't really remember a whole lot about what like spurred me on. I think it might have been my roommate who had enough. It was like, you need to get a job, you need to pay bills, you need to like bathe, you know. And so I finally went back to Meridian, and also knew that there was no way they were going to put me on depression meds if I continued to drink the way I do. Like that was not, nobody was going to do that. And I'm a horrible liar, so I knew lying was not an option about this. So that's why. So I went to Meridian, got on some meds, and finally went to meetings and said, hey, I admitted that I was an addict. And that's why my clean date, even though my last use was Memorial Day 2011, my actual clean date, the one I claim, is August 30th, 2011, because that's when I started working a program. Because I was miserable. The whole summer, I was like, I thought I was going to die. I didn't care. When I was, what I now know, what my therapist told me when I went back to therapy was, I was very passively suicidal. Like I just didn't care. I didn't think nobody would miss me. I had all that hopelessness. I was, you know, and I think also a lot of it was my whole goal at that point was to graduate college. Well, I did that, and I didn't have anything else to kind of.
There's nothing else to work towards.
Yeah, there's nothing else. I had the one goal I had since I was like 8 was I graduated college and I got the hell out of Jasper County. So like that's the county I grew up in. So like I accomplished these goals that I had, and I was like, I don't know what to do now. And so I went through that, and then that's how I got exposed to being a peer support, was because there was some older ladies that worked at Meridian and that ran some of the classes who were peer supports, who had also dealt with major depression. And I really related to them, even though they were older. I really related to them, and I really realized that I had no skills, none. Especially when it comes to anxiety or pressure or stress, I had no skills. I never learned anything except avoidance.
But that's just like, I think that's so common in young people, right?
Yeah.
Is that like we lack that. That's like the big missing piece to the puzzle of our like development. And it's like no shame on our parents or no blame placed on anybody. It's just that like somewhere along the development process, those skills just don't get addressed. They don't get talked about enough.
Yeah.
They don't get taught, or you don't get practical ways to apply them.
Yeah.
Right?
And for me, I learned a lot of negative ones. Like my like natural reaction was good at anger. And then I was just actually talking to somebody about this the other day. Like my natural reaction was to go to anger. Well, I have a younger brother, and me and my brother would fight. I mean, we had knockout, drag out fights and arguing, and we had destroyed some stuff. Like we when we would get frustrated and angry, we'd take it out on each other. So once I left my home, I learned it was not all right to pick arguments with people, because I would do that. I had one person in particular I knew was really easy to rile up, and I'd rile this person up, start this argument, and then I'd walk away, because then I had gotten my needs met. And I realized that was not acceptable. When I'm frustrated, that is not okay to take it out on other people and rile them up just to make myself feel better. So I had some skills, but they were not healthy ones. And then I would bottle, and I'm still bad about this, is I would just take all my feelings and just bottle them up. And I don't know where I learned that, because my mom is not that type of mom that was really like, it's all right to cry, but I would not cry in public. I would not show my feelings. I didn't want to be shown as weak. Like, that was not okay. And my mom even had a word from me when I was growing up. I'd have meltdowns. Like, I'd let it all build and build and build. And then I just have like a moment where I'd melt down, like crying or upset. Or I remember being a teenager, like I would like take everything, like destroy my bedroom. And then like I'd be all right, because I've released all the pent up everything. And so like I had some of these skills, but they were not healthy skills, and they were not skills that I couldn't just destroy everything in my life when I got older. Like, it's not right when you have a housemate or your landlord's not going to be okay if you destroy everything when you're pissed. And then also don't feel like cleaning it up anymore, because
So what was the learning process like over at Meridian? How'd they teach you?
Well, we had group classes, and it was a lot of like, we would talk about it, and a lot of practical stuff, like being mindful. And like one of my favorite ones I learned was being mindful through photography. And I've always liked pictures, and like did a little sketching when I was younger, but I really like taking pictures. And for a while there, I got into where they took us around town, and I have like a big scrapbook of it where we got to take pictures around town of different places and being mindful of what we're seeing and stuff like that. And it was really neat to learn to be like kind of in the moment. And that was something for me, was like I was catastrophizer. Like I was taught, you plan for the worst, it is going to be the worst. You plan for it, and that's just how you live. Well, I had to learn, like I learned a lot of mindfulness, and I learned that, it's all right to just kind of be content. And it's also like breathing and meditation, even though I didn't like meditation at first. Like,
why not?
Because I couldn't.
You can't say that to me and
I know.
expect me to.
Well, I couldn't like. For me, as I couldn't calm my mind enough. For me, it was very frustrating, because I remember like my least favorite class there was meditation. I was like, I freaking hate this class, because like I couldn't, like everybody else seemed to be like so like calm, and my brain was going 500 miles a minute.
But that's okay.
But yeah, it was. But like I just would get frustrated because I couldn't like bring it, like do it. But now I'm a lot better at it. And I actually kind of enjoy some of the meditations, and we have some, I have certain meditations I actually kind of like and stuff. So, but in the beginning it was really frustrating because I couldn't, like my mind wouldn't stop. Like even down to the day, like my mind will like go and play out all these scenarios that's probably never going to happen. But then I'd get hyped up and get anxious, and it's like, so I had to learn, like I learned a lot of the, like they taught a class that's based on like why, DBT skills and wise being mindful, and they call it wise mind now, but it's like being mindful and learning like distraction, but healthy distraction. Like for a long time I like to do like the mandalas and color and stuff like that. Like I learned there's healthy ways to be able to distract and healthy ways to be able to get stuff out, and it's different for everybody. So like my way of doing it and say your way of doing it is nothing wrong with that. It's just the way we do it. And that's something that I've learned, I've kind of taken into it for me, was that there's always, everybody has their own little different ways. Yeah. One skill that's going to work for me may not work for you. You may not look at that skill like, this is the dumbest skill ever. But for me, it's like my skill. And so like, I try to be More mindful of it. One thing that I learned a lot was about also just opening up and talking about my feelings and talking about, because that was a big deal, was even to my friends, I'd isolate. When I got really bad depressed, I was living with my best friend, and over the summer I was living with actually my two best friends from college, and we had some other people stay with me, and I was completely isolated, even though I was living with them, emotionally isolated from everybody. And learning that it's okay to open up. And today, when I'm having feelings or I'm struggling, I talk about it. And I reality test a lot too with my feelings. I'm like, is this normal? Is this how normal people feel? It's all right. Like today, it's all right to be kind of anxious when you're about to do a podcast. Like,
totally.
Like this is normal. But for me, like, I beat myself up for having that. Like, why are you so nervous? You know, Steve. Like, I have all this negative self-talk going on.
72 people have sat in that chair. Okay.
Yeah.
72 people have been very nervous.
Yeah.
A handful of them, we've had to go like the week before and have coffee with them and kind of calm their nerves a little bit and like make them feel comfortable. The very beginning, we'd have face-to-face meetings with people all the time but then as it like ramped up, it became like unmanageable. If I'm doing 2 shows a week, I can't go. I just don't have the time in my schedule.
Yeah.
But like, that's a completely normal behavior.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. Normal is a word that I don't really vibe with too well.
Yeah.
Because I'm the farthest thing from normal.
Yeah.
I'm fucking. So yeah, like that's totally. But the difference is now is that you recognize that, right? Even if it's not like air quotes normal, you spoke on the mindfulness piece, like you're recognizing the feelings, you're recognizing the emotions, and that allows you a little bit of space to create a healthy way to respond to that emotion.
Yeah.
Well, tonight the healthy way was to just kind of like sit here and get comfortable and BS a little bit before we started.
Yeah, and also for me was when I'd have these feelings, like anybody would have the feelings I would have, I'd beat myself up for them. Like I'd have a lot of like, even while I was doing something, I'd have that negative self-talk in my head saying, oh, blah, blah, you're weak, or this is stupid, you know, all this stuff. And it took me a long time to realize that, kind of tell myself, shut up, like tell my brain, like, no, like, this is how anybody in this, situation would feel. This is part of being human, like, and having to learn it's all right to be human, and it's all right to have feelings, and it's all right with that. And it was a lot of that, and learning the pause moment, like, okay, we're gonna pause, and we're just gonna breathe through this, and it's gonna be learning I can live through those emotions.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, I just didn't. Like, I stopped. I'm like, oh, nope, not going there. So having to learn, even though it was painful, it was a lot of times of crying, a lot of long night talks with my best friend. So I'm real lucky and blessed that my best friend is in recovery, and she's actually pushed me into recovery myself. And so like, I have somebody that I'm really close with that went through a lot of my active addiction with me, that's been through all of my active recovery with me, who knows me, and I can like tell her anything. And sometimes she laughs at me because of the stuff that comes out of my head. It's kind of funny. In the moment, it made me not so funny, but it's definitely sometimes funny. Like some things.
Are you saying that you're in on the stand-up comedy gig with us?
No, I'm not that funny. Okay. I will not. Nope, that's not. She is, but I'm not that funny.
Okay.
I'll be there to support and laugh.
Okay.
But no.
That'll work.
Yeah, but no, it takes me a minute, and I have to realize it's okay. And it's okay to not be perfect. And that was my biggest thing too. Like, they recommended, like, after I came in for my assessment, they were like, I think you need to take this perfection class. I'm like, I have everything other than a perfectionist. Like, that is not at all me. And then I found out there's 2 types of perfectionists. It's the perfectionists that they do everything and everything's perfect. And then there's the people who are perfectionists who, if they don't feel like they can do it perfect, they just don't do it.
Which one were you?
I'm the one that just don't do it.
Okay.
So, like, I realized that is part of me, is if I don't think I can do it correctly, I just don't do it.
You avoid.
I completely avoid it. I don't want to do it. And a lot of that I've learned to realize that. And some of it is the fact that I am the queen of procrastination.
I am too.
But some of it is just because of that. Like, if I don't think I can do it right, I just won't do it.
You avoid it until you can't avoid it anymore.
Yeah, or it has passed.
I was talking to a friend. She was dealing with some similar stuff at school the other day, and I can't remember who it was. But I was telling her, I was like, we have these extreme, unreachable expectations of ourselves, right? Like, I want to have like the number one downloaded podcast in the entire free living world, right? And we just hold these like expectations so high, that are just so unreachable. But if we were like watching ourselves, or if we were watching somebody else do what they're doing and like achieving these little simple, more simplified tasks, we would like acknowledge them and give them a big pat on the back and praise them for doing such an exceptional job. But when it's us, we set these just unrealistic, unmanageable goals for ourselves.
Yes.
And I'm guilty as anybody of it too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I haven't figured out if that's just kind of how we are as humans or if that's an addict behavior, but I know I do that. Like, I will set myself, like, I will expect myself to be here when I wouldn't expect anybody else to be here.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple different things that influence it. I think that we're just kind of like hardwired. Part of like the ego and stuff is just like, and part of like society and our culture teaches us that we're like unique and individual. So we like put ourselves on this pedestal, right? That we think that we can like do all of these like wonderful and magical things. And I'm by no means am I saying that like we can't, right? Yeah. By no means am I saying that my podcast won't be the most downloaded one in the entire country. But I'm just saying like, hey bro, check yourself and maybe set like a little more realistic goal, week by week, smaller short-term stuff. And I procrastinate the fuck out of things too. Tomorrow's the last day of school, and when I get done with this thing, I'm gonna be at home grinding, probably until the sun comes up to get caught up with everything, because it's like through the mindfulness practice, through a high level of self-awareness, and constantly like assessing, my actions, constantly assessing the way that I live my life. I'm constantly like prioritizing the things that I have to address, or things that are in my life. And so like obviously recovery is number one, and like the things that I need to do to support my recovery are number one. And then like probably this little job thing here, this little show, and then a couple other things. And then like school's like has 2 years ago, school was number 2 behind recovery, and now school's like towards the bottom of the list, because it's just not. I've learned to like in that category of my life not have those high expectations. Like, dude, it's okay for me today, it's just grades, dude. Like when I walk off that campus finally, it's 6 years to get my 2-year degree. When I walk across that stage with that piece of paper, it's just grades, bro. Like, they're not coming with me. They're staying on that campus. They're staying in that classroom when that semester ends tomorrow. It's just a grade, bro. I'm not going to stress out over what my grade is. At the same time, I take responsibility for my actions in knowing that whatever grade I got is what I deserved. It's a reflection of my work at the same time,
Well, yeah, and that's something I had to learn, was that if my best is okay.
Yeah.
And that's something I struggle with, is I think I needed to be able to do all this stuff, especially at work. I feel like I should be able to juggle all this stuff. And it's like my one sponsor, really straight. If you do your best, then that's your best. And it's all right to walk away and say, this is my best.
Or even so, like to like recognize that you gave yourself the best, and like give yourself a pat on the back and say, damn, dude, I really fucking tried. I really busted my ass with this shit, it's important to recognize that stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's where I think I also struggle with that, was instead of saying like, for me, it's like I don't acknowledge the accomplishment. Instead of being like, oh, well, I did all this. It's like, instead of like looking at all the things I've done, I like look at the list that's still to be done.
That's how our minds are wired.
It is
right?
so hard. And that's the hardest thing for me to break, especially with work. Like, and I hate to say it was different when I worked jobs I didn't, I won't say care about, but wasn't like, I wasn't highly invested in. Like when I was a cashier.
The Walmart cashier job?
Yeah, like, and then I also dealt cards at the casino. And for 2.5 years. So like, it was a little bit easier to like put that down at the end of the day. But now, because I work as a peer support, and I also work with people, so it's real hard for me to not like carry that home with me. And we have a rule in our house that we're only allowed to talk about work so much, and then
You got like 30 minutes, and then that's it. 20 minutes.
We try, and then or somebody else brings it up. We're like, why are we still talking about work?
And that's a very common. Like I've had many peer supports sit at this table, and that's such a common theme in these conversations is like taking the work home and like allowing it to like that and allowing it to influence like your process of recovery. And I think that in not to like I'm only halfway through the class now, so there's 2 more classes coming up, but there hasn't been as much of an emphasis on that topic in the class that I've been taking the last couple Saturdays that I would have like maybe liked to see. You know, like it hasn't really been, it's not something that's come up. It's something that's so important. I mean, I've known peers that have returned to use over situations like that pertain to bringing the work home and allowing it to like bleed over into your personal.
Yeah, and I think that's something we miss out a lot and we don't talk enough about is the self-care. We have to have self-care. I'm horrible at self-care. I will admit that. I will sit there and be zoning off, and Jenny will be like, what are you thinking about? I'm like, I'm trying to problem solve something for work when it's 10 o'clock at nighttime. But my first job, I really didn't make that a priority, and I burnt out because it's that constant stress and anxiety I carry out through my day. And yes, I think it's also different when you work with people. I think a lot of it comes from working in the field where it's different when you are working in something you're not working directly with people in their lives. So sometimes it's hard to just like switch it off, because if you're a peer support, you like to help people. We're natural helpers, so trying to cut that off, it's hard. It's hard to do that. And I feel like that is something that, as peers, we really need to stress more. And it's something I'm trying to do. Like I said, I'm about to go on this vacation. And I, for a while there, had to like talk it out with people. I felt guilty about taking a vacation to go see my family when I have so much work to do and so many things to do at work. I was like, I could really work and have all this booked out to the max. But part of my amends to my family is being there for these events that I did not make the time for. Like, these are one-in-a-lifetime events. Like, my half-sister's graduating from high school. Our grandmama's turning 75. Like, these are events that don't come around, or not going to come around.
Once in a lifetime.
They're once in a lifetime. And it's not, my job's not worth me, like, but part of me is like, yes, it is. Like, you should be at work. And it's like, no, I've earned that time off. I've earned it. I'm taking it and I'm doing it. And I'm not even going on like a vacation. Like, I probably going to need a vacation from my vacation. Like, build that into this vacation actually, so I can come home and be like home for a few days and just chill out. But yeah.
How do you prioritize that self-care for yourself? Not accountability from others. I don't want to hear other people telling you. How do you do it? And don't look down at the end of the table. Look at me.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's one of the things I still struggle with, and I think I may always struggle with. But for me, it's like I also know what if I'm anxious for long periods of time, I know what that does to me today. I don't like the way that makes me feel. Like, I'm really prone to anxiety migraines. So I have anxiety migraines, and I'll clench my jaw so hard. You know, like, I know what stress feels like in my body. And for me, like, when I'm feeling that, I have to realize, like, it's time to do something different. And maybe it's, you know, getting into watching something on TV or going doing something, or just not, or when I find myself thinking about work, stopping the thought, like not playing it out, not trying to problem solve at 10 o'clock at nighttime. I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep, but I'm trying to problem solve for the next day new. Like, I'm not at work. Just really reminding myself that, like, I am not at work.
What about the, you mentioned that, like, photography program that you learned at Meridian? Is that something that you still kind of get into?
I don't anymore. And that's something I keep saying I'm going to get back into that I haven't. And that's a part for me is it's easy. It has been easy for me to let some of those skills go. And I still, every once in a while, if I see something, I still take pictures, and I still do take them, but not as much as I used to. And like, need to make myself get out more and just take pictures, or just get out in general. Like, I'm the world's worst of sitting on the couch and binge watching TV or Facebook videos, which I swear you can get like lost for hours in just Facebook videos.
That's the dangers, man. What are you like a routine type of person? Like, you like to get in a routine and kind of stick to it, or do you kind of like venture off in your own?
I'm not.
way?
I try because I found I do well with the routine, but I'm the world's worst with
At getting on it.
sticking with it. Like, I do well for like a week or so, and then I'm just like, and then I just go back to doing whatever I'm doing. Like,
So I am, and that really helps with like prioritizing that self-care stuff. It's like, I wake up in the morning, I set my alarm clock set for 6 a.m. no matter what time I have to go anywhere. First thing I do is I'll meditate for like 20 minutes, right? Just get that knocked out of the way. And then depending on like what I have going on through the week, I have like time slots when I go and work out at the gym at SEC. But the most important thing that I really try to do, and I've kind of been bad at it lately, but it really worked for a long time, was 30 minutes before bed, the phone goes on silent. It gets flipped, screen down, no light up, no nothing, and I'll sit there and just read a book that has nothing to do with school or even really recovery, just something that I'm interested in. It helps my brain just kind of like slow down, and all those things that you're talking about, like the thoughts just like kind of like racing all over the place. And I'll read for 30 minutes and then I'll turn the light off and go to bed. Sometimes I don't do that. I don't start that process until midnight, but I still like try to make sure that I do that. Man, I found that it's solid. Again, it's different for everybody, but that's like because the damn screen, it gets you talk about your brain racing and thinking about stuff and going down rabbit holes of like YouTube videos or Facebook videos and stuff. That screen stimulates your brain in the same way that like drugs did. Same like dopamine releases and stuff like that. It's dangerous, man. Like if I don't put that screen down 30 minutes before I try to go to sleep, I will not go to sleep. I don't care how much melatonin I take. I don't care nothing. I will not go to sleep.
yeah, I'm the world's worst with that because I use my phone as my alarm clock. So,
I do too.
So I take it into bed with me, and then I have the Kindle app on my phone. So then I read the Kindle app.
Yeah.
Which is not the same as reading a real book because it's the backlight of it.
Yeah. Do you switch? Do you have it set to like the different colors, or do you just have it?
No, I didn't until like last night until I switched it to it because I was like, I'm switching it to a different color.
That makes a big difference because I read a lot on my Kindle too.
But yeah, it is like, and I have to be more. I try to be mindful of that too. Like, I try to be mindful of not. I didn't do so well last night because I went to bed, and then I went to bed watching something watching the new Game of Thrones on my app.
What happened? Spoilers?
No,
Got any spoilers? Tell me what happened.
I can't because
never
Jenny is reading the books and is waiting to watch the series once.
Everybody was mad on social media today, and I don't know what happened.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I'm not going to tell you.
No, like people were mad on social media.
I will say, like, talking about things like, I just got into Game of Thrones like 2 years ago. I never had HBO, so I never watched any of it. And then my stepsister and her husband had the first season on DVD, and because I'm a good addict, she let me
Binged it all.
I binged watched like a bunch, and then I got home, and then I had the flu for a week. So I got the HBO like 2 weeks free HBO, and I binge watched one, like finished one all the way to 7 in like 2 weeks. I finished it in 2 weeks. It was a lot of Game of Thrones. But I just will say, like, this, I feel like this season is just like a cop out. Just a cop out. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything. I just feel like it's a cop out. I feel like I don't know what happened. I feel like somebody decided, like, I don't.
I've never seen that one single episode, so I have no idea what's going on. I tell you, I watched, you said you're a hip hop, you grew up listening to hip hop. I got stuck watching their new Wu-Tang Clan documentary series that's on Showtime, and that shit is the real deal, man. That shit, if you do a little 7-day trial and watch the four episodes of it, it's solid, man. It's a solid program.
It's funny that you said that because me and Jenny just got finished watching Marriage Boot Camp Hip Hop Edition.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, with Waka Flocka,
okay.
and his wife was on there.
Was she?
Yep, it was quite interesting. And it's the first time they did like Marriage Boot Camp where there was everybody in the same like culture.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. But yeah, it was yeah. But yeah, I'm real big on that. I like my reality TV shows. How
long into this process you're taking classes at Meridian and kind of made some connections with you said the ladies who were doing peer support there? How long into that process did you seek out becoming a peer support specialist and gain employment doing that? Like, what was that like?
Well, they recommended it to me for a while, and then I will say I probably had must have been about almost 3 years, 2.5, 3 years clean before I actually took the class and said, okay. I did a lot of research because I did have a bachelor's degree, and I did a lot of research about if I went in as a peer, if that would then give me my experience to become a Q. And eventually, I also thought of it as the fact that I wanted to see, like, I really respected the women that were peers at the time, and I really thought they really said, hey, I think you could be a peer. Like, I really think you could do this. And then I really wanted to try it, and I also figured that I could do the peer support for a lot cheaper than a master's degree. So that so to see if I liked it and to see where if this would be the career. Because this is not what I went to school for at all.
What did you go to school for?
I have a bachelor's in environmental health. I wanted to be a county health inspector, focusing on septic systems and wells.
Okay.
Because I did not want to be in an office all day, and I liked being outside. So that's what I went to school for, and that's what I graduated with, which is a health and human service degree. I just want to say that it is a health and human service degree. So, but I kind of like it took, and then I got my degree. I finally took, even though I still was working at the casino, and I went and paid and did my peer support in Waynesville. And then it took me probably close to a year before I got hired. And what it is, I went out, I was doing some job research, and then I went out I had a major ankle surgery, and I was non-weight bearing for 6 weeks.
Oh, man. What happened?
Part of it was genetics, and part of it is I wrecked a four-wheeler, ATV, when I was 16, and I didn't seek medical help for a week, and I walked on it, and I didn't really do any of the advice they told me to do with it.
So it didn't heal properly back then?
Well, they think it may have collapsed in and just not realized it because it was really hard. They had to finally do a CT scan to see it because you couldn't really see it in the x-rays because I had a joint was partially collapsed in it, causing me a lot of pain, a lot of swelling. And so I figured I couldn't go back to I probably could have, but I figured being a tables game dealer, I had to be on my feet all 40 hours a week plus. So I knew I probably couldn't go back to that after my surgery. So that's when I really hit the ground hard running. And then I landed my first job at Appalachian in Waynesville and worked as a standalone peer support there. Then I went on to work as TMS, which is, it wasn't called TMS then, but it's Tenancy Management Services. And Disability had it at the time. RHA now does it for that. And through working with them, I started working with the people at Via Health, which is a local MCO managed care organization for Medicaid. And I started working with that with the transition to community living initiative people, and I knew that they had an in-reach position open in Waynesville that would serve the 7 most western counties, and I asked them if they were still hiring for it and put my name in the thing, and they hired me. And I've been doing it for a little over 2 years now. And I help transition people out of the primary purpose is to help transition people with mental health diagnosis out of adult care homes because they don't need to be there.
Yeah.
And it's part of the Department of Justice settlement.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but that's what I do for right now.
As a peer support.
As a peer support. Our position is technically called in-reach specialist, but to be an in-reach specialist, you have to be a peer support.
Yeah.
That was part of it. Was written into the settlement agreement for that in-reaches had to be peers.
What I'm sure that like being a peer, having experienced those major depressive episodes, you know, it's something that is very relatable to the individuals who you work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what's the process like? Like, how do you get into the loop? Like, how do they bring you in? What's that process like? Like, how do they?
Well, for us, is we get referrals for we just went through a new system where I meet people wherever they're at, and I tell them I'm in reach, but a lot of people don't know they're. I mean, they don't know what in reach is. They don't know. A lot of people maybe don't even know about peer support, and then I'm not gonna lie, I kind of fill it out because I work with sometimes with a little bit of older population that would not be so open to somebody who's in recovery talking to them. So but you know, I definitely tell people, like, when I first meet people, I tell people like I'm an in-reach specialist. I'm a peer support, and the reason that what it is a peer support is somebody that has lived experience, and I have lived experience with mental health and substance use challenges. Like I have both. And sometimes I don't go that far. Sometimes I just say I've lived experience and I'm in recovery. Just kind of who I'm working with, and, you know.
But your job is to help them transition out of the home. So like, what exactly do you do? Like, what's that process like?
Well, okay.
Like, how do you?
Well, I have to get all the documentation together, and then we have we're the only MCOs that there used to be like a 27-page tool. We only work 4 now in this area, and then I take, basically my job is to get to know this person. If they don't have services, get them linked up to mental health services or whatever type of services they need. And sometimes now, because we're doing the integrated health, it's also helping them get hooked up with physical health services too. And then I do a lot of the paperwork on the front end, and it also helps them identify like what they're looking for. Do you want to stay in Silva? Yeah. Or is your family somewhere else? You know, where, you know, is your natural supports here? And just helping them kind of identify like where they would want to live and what that environment need to look like. And then I take all my tools I work and I put them in a lovely 1-page profile that's supposed to be very person-centered. We have to put like a picture on it, and I make mine colorful because I like to do that. And yeah, we just try. I'm basically the front end person. Like, I meet them, I see, and I get all the documentation to see if they qualify for our program. And if they qualify and they want to like transition and want to work with our program, I get them started in it. And then I also do housing searches, and I do participate with because we have funding to help them like put deposits down and buy furniture, because people coming out of adult care homes don't have furniture. They won't have a lot of the basic household goods, so we help with basic household goods and stuff like that. And then I'm there through that, and then I kind of fade away once they're housed. But I work with them a lot until they're housed, and sometimes that can be quick, and sometimes it's a year. Sometimes it's 2 years if people. I've had some people that are still on my caseload from when I started because they just don't want to, because we have to see them and they're happy where they're at. So, but I really enjoy helping people like get their own places and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like super empowering. I think I was talking about like my buddy Trevor earlier today, and like you know, he's kind of going through a similar process. He was on the podcast last week, so if you haven't listened to episode 73, go back and listen to it. But he's working with the Division of the Blind, and they're helping him. He's like 22 or 3 years old and graduated from SEC, and he's going over to Western, and they're kind of doing that exact process with him and helping him get his own place over near campus where he can like walk to all of his classes. It's, you know, it's like a big step for him in his process, and having relied on his parents all of his life and kind of like growing personally and like doing all of these things.
Yeah, we're just one of the many transition programs. There's a lot. There was a lot for people with the physical disabilities, but we didn't have a lot in the state before this for people with the mental health.
How do they identify somebody that might be ready to go transition out?
Well, how it works right now is you can just call your local the local MCO. Ours is via help.
But, I mean, who calls? The clients do?
People can't. The client, the service providers. We get a lot of self referrals now. It used to not be like that. It used to be another process called the PASSAR system that you used to have to go through to get to me. But now it can be a self referral thing. So, yeah. They're going to love me for this because we have been swamped since we got it. But we have a lot of self-referrals, people calling in or people...
Yeah, so if you're watching, go ahead and call Kelly at 828. No, I'm just kidding.
No, do not call me.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding.
But no, it's just basically people call the local managed care organization. Ours is VIA for the 23 most western counties. And just and Black people they're asking for help with housing, and then they have their own questions they ask, and then I'm the person that double checks the paperwork, their assessments, and make sure they qualify, and then I help gather the other paperwork we need for the program.
So, in your process of recovery, I think one of the things that stands out in many people who I've talked to stories, and myself included, is like overcoming challenges in recovery, right? Like when you're faced with just like, you know, some of the most difficult challenges, things that we would have never imagined we could get through while we were actively using. What is that like for you? Like, how do you approach these types of situations? It's like when it rained, like looking back on like my story, some of my most significant growth happened through extreme adversity in recovery, not before recovery, after recovery, like significant growth. And you know, it was really fucking hard, but getting through that really is a handful of things that kind of all happened at one time. And getting through that really significantly changed my perspective on this whole process, on this whole game of life that we play. And then in doing so and like getting that, and then kind of like things kind of settling back down and getting back to normal for like a couple years, and then just getting smacked in the face again, like 2 or 3 years later, most like recently, you know, like, having like been through it the first time, choking here. Coffee always does it to me. Having gotten through that the first time has just like made these changes so much more, I don't want to say like easier, but so much more like accepting and tolerable, and like given me a very clear understanding of the circumstances, right? And a very clear understanding of like looking at these difficult times and really honing in on them and being able to identify what it is that I am to learn from these situations, right? Because there's something in there that I need to take away to allow me to continue to grow and to continue to prosper into the person that I'm going to be. So like what's it like overcoming like challenges, like being faced with difficult?
I want to say for me, like two things that came to mind was one of my biggest hurdles, or one of my biggest challenges, one of my biggest reservations was dealing with death, because I never learned to properly grieve. I didn't properly grieve. And when I was in my youth, I lost I've lost both my step grandfathers in the same year, months apart, both from cancer, different forms of cancer. So really for me it was like, I didn't know how I'd handle that. And when I was faced with that, I had an elderly aunt that helped raise me, pass away. Just the fact that I was able to be there, and I was at the time wasn't like, I only had about a year and a half clean, but I didn't have like, I would say like, I just remember just reaching out, but also just not to that, but also being able to reach out to my family for the first time to get that comfort and be there with them and be able to grieve with them was like a huge deal for me. And realizing that, and through that process, I didn't even really think about using, which was like a huge deal for me, because I was like, I always thought if this happened, I would want to use, but I didn't want to do that. And then since then, I also lost my last grandfather. I was great right around one of my clean dates. Actually, I lost him, and I was really one of my anniversaries, and one of my clean time anniversaries and stuff. And I was really grateful that I had learned like a proper grieving process and could do it and be there and talk about it and realize that it's all right to grieve. But I will say like one of the hardest challenges I never thought I'd face was I had a relationship that was a year and a half long relationship that ended, and it was the closest thing that my brain literally was like, there's a way not to feel what you're feeling. Like, there's a way not to feel this, and it's to use. And I was like, but luckily, like, I had enough. That one part of my brain was saying this, and then my recovery brain was like, that is stupid. Yeah. You have built your life. I've built my life in such a way where if I lose everything, and it's not worth it. And he is not worth losing everything. This hurts, that heartache, that pain. I never really understood, like, when people talk about relationships and stuff until then, because I was the type of person that never really had a serious romantic relationship before I got clean. And I never really, up until that point in recovery, had one, just because of my own issues and stuff. And so when that relationship ended, like, I did a lot of crying. Luckily, we ended it on Thanksgiving, so I got to eat all of my feelings. And I got to be, we had like a recovery Thanksgiving, so I got to be around a lot of women, a lot of people who knew me, to be there. And I remember at one point we were going to it, and like it was like a text message thing, and it ended. And I remember like one of my spots has always been is Eastwood Park in Cullowhee. I like to go listen to the water. So like I was with Jenny again, and we just drove and like kind of rolled the windows down because it was November, and just listened to the water and just let myself cry and just let myself like be upset. And then I kind of composed myself a little bit, and I went and ate all my feelings. And then I had another like crying, and it's just a matter of telling myself it's all right to feel however I'm feeling, and not suppress it and not hold it back and let it go when it's happening. Because since I have such a hard time letting my feelings out, or I used to have such a hard time letting my feelings out in the moment, that's why I have to remind myself it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to eat all your feelings. It's okay. And then for me, with that relationship ended, one of the biggest things in my head was, don't do anything that you will have to owe amends for later. I don't want to ever have to talk to this person ever again, so don't do anything that you're going to have to make amends for later.
Yeah. Well, it's again like we were talking a little while ago that you know, we have these high expectations of ourselves. And so like any reasonable person would clearly understand that it's okay to be sad during these periods of loss, whether it's death or a relationship or whatever. Every person on this planet, besides some sociopath, every person on this planet would feel some of that sorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And be upset about that type of change, about that loss. For me, it's like, it's so crazy because like it comes all at once, like multiple things, boom, 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 right? And it's almost like, I was talking to my teacher, my advisor the other day, and it's looking back, like every April and May, it's like literally like I locked it in on like a period of like 3 weeks. Every April and May, like significant loss, right? And it's just like, if I could just get through these next couple weeks, I'm gonna be okay. And like the first couple Aprils and Mays were really fucking hard, right? In this April and May, there was a lot of appreciation this time, a lot of understanding, like to the point where I was like, I came out of it just a couple days ago. I came out of it with like almost like wanting to just like pat myself on the back, like, dude, yeah, you know what to do now. You possess the skills to overcome it. The biggest thing was, and it's I don't want to say it's silly, but like the biggest thing was that I had to put my 14-year-old American Bulldog down like a week ago. And he was, he's been with me since 2005. He lived through all the chaos. He lived through all the active addiction. He kept me alive at the end when I was ready to take my own life. The only reason why I didn't was because I knew that he would be in that apartment, and I don't know how like long it would take for somebody to find him. And so there was a significant period during those last days. There was a significant period of guilt when I was holding him in my bed and just laying with him and like knowing that this was it and that I would have to do it. There was like significant periods of guilt where I just felt bad that like in those times, I didn't love him the way that he loved me, and that it wasn't as reciprocal as it should have been. But I was okay with it. I was like, you know, what are the positives that you can like, I recognize that I'm feeling some guilt and some shame for my past behavior, but what do I have to be grateful for? Well, he got to have 5 years of recovery time with me. He got to move out of the big city in Tampa, Florida, and up to the top of a mountain and have some freedom for the last 5 years of his life. He got to run around the mountain and do whatever the fuck he wanted, right? Like, he had all of these things. He had a ton of love those last 5 years of his life. And, you know, I was able to do it, you know, and 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd have been a fucking mess. A fucking mess. But what's the reality? The reality is the dog is 14 years old. He was my best friend, and I loved the shit out of that dude. But I am fortunate that he lived that long. A big 100-pound bulldog to live to be 14 years old, like, not many people get to have that type of experience. And so, like, throughout all the chaos, I was able to just, like, hone in on accepting the circumstances, that, like, Steve is not in control of the situation, right? Steve is not, this situation does not revolve around what Steve wants. It's destined to happen. And I was able to, like, really, like, authentically fucking lay there and love on that dude until it was time to go. And, like, I seriously wouldn't have been able to do that a few years ago. And then some other death within, like, the same couple weeks. Like, and loss and stuff. So it was just like a compounding thing, like all at once. But like, it's all good. The shit does not define me. I totally get that. Like, not that just that there's going to be like these highs and lows of life, but there's going to be like fucking tsunamis coming, right? Life's trying to catch me slipping, but guess what? I got the skills. I got a toolbox. I got my meditation practice. I got my fellowship. I got my people. I got my podcast and people to talk to. Like, the shit ain't the end of the world. It's not a big deal. It was a moment of like recognition that like, if I can get through all this bullshit that just happened, it's just like accept it and tolerate that it sucks. Know that it sucks and tolerate that it sucks, that I can get through the next 70 or 40 or 50 years of my life. You know, like, it's all good.
Yeah.
The shit ain't going to define me. I just can't, you know.
Well, I'm definitely going to put you on my list of people to call because that's, I don't have children, but I have 2 dogs and they're my babies. So I'm going to keep you on my list of people to call if something ever happens to them. Because I don't know, because they are we've had one since he was like an itty bitty, like that would fit in the palm of your hand. And the other one we've had her since she was a year old, and she is my spazzy star dog. But but they're my dogs and they're like my babies, and
I don't have kids, they're my babies.
That's how my dogs are too. And
I called one of my friends. I did get emotional, you know. I was upset one night and I was petting him and stuff, holding him, crying, and I called one of my friends just to like talk, you know. And it was like 1:00 in the morning, and she told me something that I just never thought about before. And what she said was that like, and I think I said this a few weeks ago with Caleb, but what she said was that like, in the timeline, the spectrum of your life, right, relationships come and go, personal, romantic, family, all of the above. People come, people go, people pass. There's not a constant, right? Every single relationship in your life will come to an end, right? But in your dog's life, you were the only thing that he loved. In his timeline, in the spectrum of his life, it was just you. You were there for the entire thing, right? Because the same thing, I had him since he was this little tiny puppy, grew to a 100-pound bulldog, like. And it really like brought some clarity into the situation that like, you're fucking right. Like, yeah, even though I put him through all that stuff, I was the only thing I was there for. So like, I guess like these dogs like have it made because they get somebody to love. Like, here we are like out here like looking for it from various people. And it's just like, I just want to be reincarnated as a dog, man.
That's what I always say, that when I die, I want to come back as one of my dogs.
For real, man.
Because our dog Rocket is spoiled, right? And he lays up. Yeah, that dog doesn't know what cold feels like. He doesn't know what hot feels like. He's lived in the house his whole life. He gets all of his toys. Like, he's spoiled. But you know what? It's all right today, because what's also interesting is we got our dogs after we got clean. So our dogs have never been around us using. And our dog Rocket actually cannot stand the smell. If somebody comes to our house and smells like alcohol, like he goes freaking nuts. He cannot stand it. And that's like a testimony to the fact that our dogs, or one dog, has never been around us using. And the other dog, her previous owner I got was a friend in the fellowship who had relapsed and couldn't keep her. So there's no telling what she saw the first year of her life. But with us, she's been spoilt right, and they sleep in the bed and they get all the toys and treats and food they want, and they just spoilt right, you know. And that's that's what they're about. They're my dogs. They're my babies. But like you said, they have a shorter lifespan, but they have a pretty good life. I will say I don't know if he thinks he has a good life, but I think he has a pretty good life.
Sure he does. When I had to do it, there was definitely there was no hesitation. There was no. It was pure relief. It was pure relief that it was just time for sure. How do you, in this? I mean, you said 2012, 2011. How do you continue to challenge yourself, again, take the accountability piece out of it. How do you how do you continue to challenge yourself to continue to grow and to continue to like?
For me, it's because I have been miserable in recovery, and I don't want to be that today. And I've watched people, I've seen others like stop doing things and then go back and be miserable. And I don't want to do that today. So for me, I always try to find, it's easy to get in their ruts, but I try like switch it up. Like this year, like I've been saying for a couple of last years, I want to try another like recovery thing out. And I actually went and did it one night. Now, it's not probably going to be my thing, but I tried it. Yeah. You know, and it's about challenging finally doing things. Like, but I was grateful that I tried it and can say, you know what, I tried that. I don't really think that's not really where I feel like I fit, but you know, I tried it. And that's funny, because probably the next thing I'm eventually going to try is probably refuge recovery, because I've been saying that for years. Since I heard about it, I've been wanting to try it out. So, but eventually, you know, try different things. I switch up, go to different meetings. I also try to get involved. Like, I've been getting involved in a little bit bigger on some different levels of service. So I'm interacting with different people, because that's I feel like, especially being in a small area, it's good to get around different people after a while. Because after a while, you know everybody, you get tired of hearing everybody's shit. So I just have to get around different people. Same things, just different people, and it makes a difference. And I just really, because today, like, I enjoy my life. Like, I don't ever want to go back to where I was. Like, I don't ever want to go back to where I was locked in my own head, in the pits of hell, completely had no hope, completely miserable. You know, I was 22 years old, and I was pretty sure I was going to die. I didn't know when I was going to die, but I figured I was going to die using, and I was okay with it. Like, I had come to terms at 22 that I was going to die using. Like, that is a sad, like, looking back, like, that is so sad. Like, now I'm 30 and didn't think I'd ever make it to 30 and didn't prepare to make it to 30. So, words of wisdom out there, youngins. Take care of your credit. Do some things. Like, you probably will live a lot longer than you think.
The technology these days will keep you alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Facebook will come back to haunt you. Good old memories.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they ever start that?
I was fortunate enough to like avoid social media until I found recovery. I was like one of those anti-social media guys. I fucked around on Twitter all the time. I like Twitter for like, I don't know, news and things like that. Like, that just like Facebook doesn't get boggled down with. But I stayed off of all the social media platforms. I was just like one of those anti-social media guys, until what brought me to it was that I found out that Refuge Recovery had all these groups and they shared so much information on Facebook, and that was the only reason why I joined it, was that. And then here we are broadcasting a damn podcast on there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just funny because, like, I never been a real big post on Facebook. Like, I don't post like a lot either. Like, I have Facebook, I keep it so I can keep in touch with my family that's not in the same state, and see pictures of stuff and keep in contact, and definitely use it. Definitely started getting more involved with like the statewide more peer support people. So I'm on some of those different groups and seeing different things, which is interesting. Sometimes it pisses me off. But, you know, I try, for me, like, I didn't do a whole lot, so I'm glad Facebook wasn't as big as a deal as it is now. And I'm so glad there was no live streaming when I was using, because I'm sure we would have done some live streaming and that would have been embarrassing as hell. So, like, I'm so grateful that did not exist. Huh? It could have been, but probably not. Like, I'm so grateful that, like, and, like, we really weren't, like, the most savvy tech people. So, like, pictures, but there wasn't a whole lot of videos that ever got up. I'm really grateful for that. Like, and I'm so grateful that my way younger days, like, internet, like, because I didn't get Facebook until I came to college. And then I didn't really get on it. Like, I didn't post. I posted a few things, but it's not, like, a whole lot. Like I didn't post because at one point then my mom got Facebook. I didn't want my mom to see, so I stayed off of it a lot. And my family members had Facebook, so I didn't want them to see, so I just like kind of stayed off of it. So I'm grateful for that.
We're going to be starting a new refuge recovery meeting. And probably when we get back from the Pacific Coast, like mid-July. So once we do that, I'll let you know. Because currently we meet on Sunday nights, and it just hasn't really been working out. So we're looking for a new location and a new day of the week and time probably. So I'll let you know like when something like that comes up. I would also, like if that's something that you're interested in, just like seeing what it's like, the damn Astral groups have it going on over at Urban Dharma in downtown. It would be worth a trip over there if y'all are, that's something that you'd be.
I have to try it out because and for me, like I try not to. For my recovery, I try not to like get stuck in the same thing. Like I always like to try different things and see, because I feel like we can always learn from each other.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's always different things to learn.
Yeah.
And like I've gone to different recovery in general, and that's the thing. I think some of it comes from being a peer support, because like I've had to have like a peer support brain, and then like my like how I got clean brain, like the program I got clean in. But when I go to work, like some of those values don't overlap.
Yeah.
Like what I do as a peer support is not what I would tell somebody I'm working with as a peer is not what I'd tell somebody that I'm sponsoring.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, I like have two brains. Like what I tell to you as my sponsee, I probably would not say that to somebody I'm working with.
Yeah. And it's like, it's the same thing in the recovery circles, no matter what like pathway it is that you choose. But like the same thing that's happening like societally is that like we're like stuck in these tribal mentalities where we can notice and recognize the differences, right? Yeah. Like you guys do this, we do that, you guys do this, Democrats, Republicans, left, right, whoever, like it's so easy for us to point out and to identify the differences. But like through talking to people, building these connections on this podcast, it has opened me up to like look at the similarities. Well, what are the similarities between like my fellowship and yours? Well, fuck, we're in recovery. Like, we're major principles are all the same, right? They're all the spiritual principles are like identical to like what we do. Yeah. We're all there for the fellowship, for the support of each other. Like there's so much in common, but we don't. And it's in any recovery groups, but there's so much in common, but we just choose to like identify the differences.
I think a lot of it also comes from the fact that when I got clean in this area, there wasn't a lot of meetings. So if you wanted to go to a meeting every day, you had to go to different fellowships. Yeah. So early on, my sponsor taught me a meeting is a meeting, no matter where you're. So
you got a little taste of what was available here.
Yeah.
Early on.
Yeah, it was like there wasn't a whole lot other than like the two main ones, but like. If you wanted a meeting every night and you didn't want to travel 30, 45 minutes, you had to go to just a different fellowship. Mm-hmm. And that's when I learned a meeting is a meeting, no matter where I'm at. And I think that gets lost a lot of times, especially when I talk to people like from Asheville, like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, a meeting is a meeting because, like, I live in Western North Carolina, and we don't have a meeting sometimes every night of the week, or sometimes I can't make those meetings because of work, like, or stuff coming up, like, this is how life is out here. We kind of just have to go where the meetings are, And I think that really had made me more, I guess, open-minded to different things, because it wasn't like I could just stay over here in this one little fellowship. And we all also, being that our community is so small, we all kind of know each other anyway. Yeah. There's a lot of crossover because people need a meeting, and there's not one of their, like, if there's not one of their general Pacific fellowship, they're most likely maybe come to your meeting because they need a meeting, like that's how it works out here. And I feel like sometimes the bigger city people it gets lost on. Yeah. But I'm also personally been trying to check my own attitudes about things, because as somebody with my recovery background, I have felt like in a lot that the recovery movement and people who are involved in the recovery, especially in the western part, like west of Asheville, I don't fit in with it. Does that make? I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like because of my path, my path is not really acceptable to some of the people who are part of who are the bigger faces of the movement out here. So I've been trying to check my attitude about that too. I mean, like, nah, I belong, and no matter what anybody says, I belong because I'm in recovery. Yeah. No matter what. And so yeah, period. Like I've been trying to really check my attitude with that too, and also being like, don't not letting that like self-exclude myself. No, because even if I don't particularly like, so I've been trying to like push myself out, even when maybe I wouldn't feel the most welcome. I still make myself go. Yeah. And I'm surprised. So I'm surprised a lot. So, and it's because a lot of it is also my own internal stuff too. Get to judging people and get to making judgments of others. So.
Yeah, the first 4 years of sobriety, like, I was in my bubble, right? I found something that worked. I held on to it really tight because it worked. I experienced relief, got out of my head, experienced some life, right? I didn't want to go out because it worked. I stayed in my bubble, talking to people, this podcast and stuff. Now, I look at it and, like, I don't care what room I'm in. There's something in there to teach me. Somebody's in there to teach me something. There's something for me to learn. There's a skill that I can apply to my life that will allow me to continue to grow and to be a better person and a better member of our community and all that jazz, But it wasn't like that in the beginning. No. It was not like that in the beginning. What do you think about the online stuff, like the in the rooms? Are you familiar with any of that stuff, the online phone meeting kind of stuff?
I haven't done a lot. No? In the rooms, I saw it when it like kind of first came out, but I haven't. I don't know. Like for me, I still more like the face to face. Like, yeah, sure. I know it's out there, and I definitely encourage people to seek it out. Yeah. But I haven't really done a whole lot of it.
I asked because, like, when I first moved up here, Refuge Recovery was so new that they only had meetings in, like, California and maybe in, like, Miami. So, like, there weren't any options. So, like, for the first 2 years, all I did was phone meetings. That's all I did. And, like, what I noticed in doing that, my mentor, my sponsor, we call them mentors. My sponsor was online or, like, out of state, not face-to-face. But what I learned from doing so many of those meetings, because I was doing one, like, almost every day, was that because Refuge is not an anonymous organization, so like they're very open and public about what they do, but it created a layer of authenticity because people felt more comfortable. Like there was more real work being done in those meetings, more honesty, more authenticity, because because of the anonymous piece. That's, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like it was like 1,000% anonymous because you have no idea. It was 1-800, the conference call deal. Like, yeah, there was no face-to-face kind of thing. So it like added a layer of honesty, of like work and sharing and things like that like was missing from some of the face-to-face meetings.
But yeah, no, I've never tried it, but I know a lot of people who have. Like you said, I feel like I'm not against it, and I actually really encourage people to try them out. Like I knew I had a sponsee sister who, because of her job, did not feel comfortable coming to meetings in the area at all. And that's where she got most of her meetings were from online meetings. And like I haven't tried it. There was something online I was going to look at doing. I can't remember what it was, but like for me, I hate to say it, a lot of times is I forget about it. So like for me, I haven't done it, but I'm not against it. And I do look at some things like web, like podcast or like different like NC Raw or like different things to learn different things, because there's a lot of times, maybe because we do live in a rural area, maybe I can't go to this, but I can watch the webinar on it, or I can watch the TED Talk, or like I'm a huge documentary person too, so like I like to watch all that like stuff. But yeah, I just haven't really ever tried online meetings, but I know they're out there.
What's next for you?
I don't don't know. I keep saying that eventually, I'm going to go back and get my master's degree.
Say it again. I couldn't hear you. You kind of trailed off.
Yeah, I keep saying I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. I know the program I want to go into, but a lot of it's self-doubt. Like, I hold myself back because one of my biggest struggles is writing, especially papers and stuff. I know that's mostly all a master's degree is. And I always say, this is a very negative thing to say. I always say, I'm not sure if I'm smart enough. I know I can do the book work. I know I can do like the test, and I can probably get the concepts. But that is something that I have always struggled, is getting my thoughts out on paper. So like, definitely, if I went back, I definitely like in my undergrad, I definitely did not take any help from any type of like learning center, learn the writing center, and I had to go there for Western for some of my classes. I never took advantage of it. I never did any of that. I was definitely not willing for any help. But today, like, if I went back, it would definitely, I know it would be a serious endeavor. And I also know today I'm more willing to ask for help.
Yeah. And there's so many resources available.
Yeah, and that's like, I know I would be more willing to do it now. But also for me, it's a matter of finances, because I went to Western for 4 years, complete full financial aid and out-of-state tuition. And so I have a very large debt of student loans from my undergrad. But I did find, I have found a program that I feel like would be worth it, because another thing I looked at too was, well, if I get my master's degree, I have to take on more debt to get a master's degree. Would it be worth it to do it? Well, for me personally, online is not worth it. The money to thing, but there's a few programs around here. I really think about the ETSU program. Yeah. They have they have one. They used to have one that was just for, they have a 3-year program for people who have an undergraduate that's not in social work, but it's for people who work, so they only have classes like 1 day a week and stuff like that. And because they have and they use the Lenore Ryan campus, so they actually get in-state tuition through them. So in North Carolina, you get in-state. And so I thought about that. And I've also looked at, I also like them because you don't have to take the GRE. So I really like that too. And I've looked at Westerns too, but you have to take the GRE to get into Western social work program, master's level program. But I think for me, that probably for me would be the next. I don't know if that would be the next step. I think I kind of miss doing a little bit more direct service. I do direct service now. I miss being able to work with people more long term and build those relationships and help people like do more of the other stuff other than housing. So I don't know, but I did make a commitment that I would probably ride this out to the settlement out, because I really love what I do.
Okay.
And I've been doing it for such a while that the settlement should come to end in 2021. So we'll see.
It's right around the corner, dude.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So I might as well just ride it out.
Yeah.
Just ride it out and see what happens. I just say if there's a few things that if it comes down from the state that they're going to do, I'm out. Like, I'm piecing. Like, y'all can do without work. I ain't even dealing with it. I'm going to be honest. Like, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just know there's a lot of, I look around and there's a lot more opportunities for peer supports. And there's a lot more appreciation for peer supports than even when I first got my job. And there's a lot, and who knows what's in a few years what's going to happen. Like, I know, like, they're doing a lot of stuff over in Asheville, Sunrise Recovery, doing a lot. Like, they have their own respite and like peer respite. And there's a big movement in the state to get more of that peer-run organizations and stuff like that. So, like, who knows where I'll end up? Like, I don't really know. I'm not really putting a limit on that. Like, and I'm something that Jenny says, like, because Jenny has done the same job, the same like work for a long time. Me, I skipped around. I did it till I found a spot I liked. Yeah. And I'm willing to do that.
That's important.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. Like, I'm willing to find, like, if something comes up and I want to try the opportunity, I'll do it, you know, because you never know. So I don't know. I know that one thing for me is I like the mountains, so I'm going to stay in Western North Carolina.
Hell yes.
This is my home. This is where I've made my home. You know, some people want to travel. Some people want to live in big cities. Y'all can have it. I did some training in Raleigh a couple weeks ago. It took me an hour to go 23 miles. Y'all can keep that.
This is like the perfect place to live because we are in the mountains.
Yeah.
But we're still like 45 minutes from a decent sized city.
Yeah.
Anything that you need, you know? So like it's like almost the best of both worlds.
Well, then that's why I like it, because I was closer to Savannah from where I grew up. I grew up across the river, so I was about maybe 15, 20 minutes from Savannah. So I'm used to living in the country and then going to the city.
Gotcha.
So here, it's a little bit farther, like definitely Hardyville's definitely farther than Savannah is. From like here is definitely farther to Asheville, but I like the fact that I can do a day trip to Asheville and go to the mall. But when I come home, I don't have to deal with Asheville's problems.
Yeah.
I can come back to my nice little cove area I live at, my dogs, and just chill. Like, I don't have to deal with it. And people laugh at me because one of my jobs, they always said, "When are you moving to Buncombe County?" And I said, "There's not enough money in the world for me to move to Buncombe County. There's not. I wouldn't, like, no."
Me too.
I was like, I'm good. I grew up, like, I like where I live. I've been in the same house it's going on. This August will be 7 years. I live in the same spot. My dogs are happy. They can be dogs. I can let them out. They can run. It's great. Like, I don't have no plans of moving anywhere, and I'm happy. And I know some people want to move and people want to like go different. I'm like, that's great, but for me, this is where I feel like home. This is where I like it. I like the people. I like the communities. I like working with the people in the communities. Like, I enjoy it. So I plan on staying at least here. I don't know what job I'll be doing. I don't know where I'll be living at. But I know I'll be here. I know I've lived in Jackson County now going on 12 years. I came here to Western and I stayed.
You stayed. Not many students do that.
Which, I mean, for me, when I graduated, it was 2011 and everything had tanked.
Yeah.
Everything tanked. There was no more opportunity here as it was back home. So I just stayed because I had a roommate. She had a job. I stayed, and I got cleaning. I stayed because I know for me, living with my family would be one of the worst things I could ever do for my recovery. I tell people I live 5 hours from my family for a reason. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm so excited to see them, but I'm really grateful that I get in my car and I drive, and they're not down the road. They're 5 hours away.
Yeah.
But I love that, but it's nice, and I'm excited to be able to go see them and be able to be there, because that is my immense to them. Because there was many things I missed out on that I just didn't go home for, so I'm grateful for that.
Well, listen, Kelly, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
I hope you have a wonderful trip down there.
Yes.
Right. No matter what your mind's telling you, you deserve this vacation.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful to call your friend, and I'm grateful to have you on, and we'll do it again sometime soon.
Okay.
Cool?
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys later. Peace out, peace out, peace out.